tell me, what is it, what is it? There's something inside, yeah, it sounds so familiar. May I remind you, what is it, what is it? Come on and tell me, go on, remind me. What is it, what is it? Afraid I'm not hearing it. What is it, what is it? Afraid I'm not hearing it. Little like you, about to chat and sitting and fights for chilling and yeah, find myself sleeping in it. Mountains and mountains, in a river flowing down from it. Yeah, when I see it, I don't see it. Hi, hi, yeah, tell me alright. What is it? What is it? When I see it, I don't see it. Hi, 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 hi. What is it? What is it?
Hello and welcome back to Place of Assembly, a live stream and podcast produced by Halo in partnership with Experimental Sound Studio Chicago and 8-Ball Radio. We are here today with two very special guests. Adrian is Hungry and Turbo Sonidero, and we're going to be talking about Sonidero culture and cumbia, techno cumbia, other musical forms and other spaces. The history of cumbia music, the history of the Sonidero is fascinating from what I know. As always, I am here as a student. Adrian and Turbo are the experts, so we're going to be learning from them. But this is another installment of Place of Assembly orbiting around sound system music. So we're going to get into it. So, with no further ado, Adrian and Turbo, y'all can turn your video back on, emerge from beyond the icon, as I am fond of saying, and we'll get it cracking. What's up, guys?
What up?
How you guys doing?
How are both of you faring during this intense time?
It's going.
And Turbo, where are you?
I'm in San Jose, California.
Did you say Santa Fe or South Bay?
Oh, San Jose, San Jose.
Oh, okay, word. Yeah, wild times. So we're here today to talk about cumbia music, other forms, the Sonidero, y'all's practice, what you guys are up to, how you came to this. So I don't normally do this, but why don't we just start out by you guys each kind of saying a little something about who you are, what you're up to, and how you got into this, and then from there we'll go into the Sonidero and cumbia and so on. Okay. Turbo, let's start with you.
There we go. Thank you, Sam, for putting this together, by the way. So my name is Turbo. I'm from San Jose, California. My family's from, my dad is from Puebla, my mom's from Nesa, Estado de Mexico.
Oh, okay, word. And you're a DJ and a selector and a producer and a record collector, and you got a label. Like, you have a lot going on, right?
Yeah. And I also have a party out here in San Jose called Sonido Clash, and I'm also a part of another party called Cumbia Town, and I also was a part of the Sonido Clash Music Fest, which is a music festival here in San Jose that we do because of there's more festival.
Okay, cool. And Adrian, how about you? Let us know what's going on.
Yeah, so my name is Adrian Patino. I live in Flatbush, New York, in Brooklyn. I've been here for 7 years now. I'm a graphic designer. I through work at advertising agency. I was there for a while, and then I started organizing parties in New York, vinyl parties, local bars. I've been doing that for the past 4 years. And then I've just been doing events. I'm also part of a art collective called Barrio Collective, and with that, we do a lot of events and organize different marketplaces for artists, and then we also combine that with performances, with music, and then during the pandemic, we also did an event at Holo, which we were doing it with Diego, with Palacha, and we were like just having the like streaming events after we couldn't do the live event. Aside from that, I also have my brand, which is Super Records, and it's like my merchandise, music oriented merch, and I also have a platform for new artists that are kind of like doing new music.
So, Kazumbo Records, what do you cover with Kazumbo Records? Like, what type of musical forms are you devoted to, in that setting?
So, the idea is that as far as the merch goes, it's oriented towards tropical vintage music. So, cumbia, salsa, as like the main thing that everyone has like knows, but also merengue, Dominican music, everything from the Caribbean, and Africa that is considered the tropics.
Word. And so, where are you from, and how did you come into this and all of this?
I grew up in Cali, Colombia. So Cali is more of a salsa heavy city. It's not very cumbia oriented, and there isn't a lot of like cumbia culture in Cali. And then I moved to Miami when I was 13, and I didn't really start to see the Sonidero scene until I moved to New York 7 years ago.
Okay. And so, can somebody volunteer to just for the audience, and to an extent for me? I mean, I have some familiarity with this, but also, for the audience, what is a sonidero? Because I mean, that word itself means more than one thing. I mean, correct? Am I right about that?
Yeah, correct. Sonidero in a nutshell is a sound system, and compared to Jamaican sound systems or even the sound systems in the beginning of hip hop, and of course it extends to other things. It's like for example, hip hop, right? So you got the sound system. Sound system you used to get graph players together and MCs together, and that's the same function that the Sonidero and Mexico. It's pretty much. I think it's really parallel. I really like the story of the Sonidero. I think it's really similar to the story of hip hop in the United States.
Mm-hmm. Okay, got you. Turbo, I'm gonna try something with you because we tried to fix your sound earlier. It's still a little bit wonky.
Okay.
I'm sending you here's what we're gonna do. I'm sending you my phone number. What I want you to do is plug your headphones into your phone and and call me, and then I'm gonna take Adrian's sound out of the computer and your sound out of my phone, and it should fix it out. And while we're doing that, I'm gonna ask Adrian a question. Just give me 1 second.
Okay.
So, Adrian, while we get this sorted out, what's your connection to Sonidero culture, so on, or do you have anything to add to that and so forth?
Yeah, so it was for me, it coming to New York that showed me the appreciation for a type of music that I wasn't really that familiar with when I was living in Colombia. So seeing how much people like cumbia in places outside of Colombia, like did something for me that like made me curious about like why is this that why is this the case? Like why do people like it so much? And I just sort of like you have that cumbia moment that like people when they're like outside of the Colombian people, they move out of Colombia and then they have a cumbia moment, and they just start to like hear cumbia and start to like understand cumbia, like listen to it a lot more. And it's like for the past 10 years, it's more common for people to go and like hear cumbia, and it's more acceptable in social like parties, like younger generation. Like hipster parties, like parties will play cumbia. Um, so for me, it was just getting exposed to it as like just like walking around and seeing the 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 ads for the other party. So that was like my introduction to doing that, and as a graphic designer, I was the aesthetic has been present in my life for a long time as a graphic. That's part of like my look. It's very based on popular design and like hand lettering and typography. So it's very connected with the Sonidero culture and the design.
Okay, word. So you said in there like a few times like there was like a cumbia moment that you had or that happened.
Yeah.
Like, can you tell me more about what you mean by that? Like, and also connecting with something that Turbo was saying about how the Sonidero refers to the sound system, and that it has kind of a commensurate role in culture that, as to hip hop in the States. What can you just like unpack a little bit more, like the significance of this culture in the countries where it's practiced dominantly, like in Mexico or Colombia or something, and also your experience with the cumbia moment, as you said.
Yeah. So the cumbia moment is like that moment where you as a Colombian realize, or as the cumbia is an interesting rhythm, and it's interesting part of your life because it's always there. It's always like in your culture, because when December comes around, it's always sort of like that's the music of December for the whole country. And then there's other, that being not from the Caribbean coast. I'm from Cali, so it's not from the Pacific coast, but like a city that's inside of the mountains. So it's not on the coast, and the main rhythm of Cali is salsa. But then when it came to New York, and I started to hear all these Colombian rhythms that I hadn't like listened to, that I hadn't heard before, and it's like, oh, what is this? I should be investigating more, because there's like other people that are like doing it, or it was like for me it was like a moment to start to look into cumbia as like something that was a big part of my life, and it connected me with my Colombian roots in a way, even if where I'm from is not cumbia heavy, but it did connect me with my Colombian identity.
Okay, got you. Cumbia is a very regional music, if I understand correctly, like in the sense that many different places will have a very like specific take on it, and if you're really versed in cumbia, then you'll kind of be able to say, oh, this is from Colombia, or this is from Mexico, or this is from Ecuador, or like what have you. I want to come back to that, but I'm interested to kind of get to. Okay, we got Turbo here. Let's see if this works. Turbo, you there?
Yeah, I'm right here. What's up?
Okay, all right. So I think we're. Oh no, I'm calling him back. I think we might be onto something here. But I want to get in a little bit more to the Sonidero, because the Sonidero, in addition to being a
Please leave your message for
Oh, man,
40.
I gotta get this guy.
Sorry
on the
about
phone.
that. My phone died.
Oh,
Let
okay.
me try
Well,
to-
let's just try to write it out. So,
Okay, what's up?
You sound good now. Okay.
let me-
So
I'll
now
speak
that
louder.
yeah, if you stay close to the computer, I think you're good.
Okay.
All right. So now that this hijinks is behind us, so in addition to referring to a sound system, a Sonidero is also an event. I could be wrong. Like, anything I say on this show, I might be wrong about, so correct me. But I feel like when I've been talking to Diego and he's been inviting me to things and stuff, when he talks about a Sonidero, it's also an event that he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But then also a Sonidero, like a person who plays records at one of these events, is also called a Sonidero. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So I'll go all the way back. So Sonideros really started in the 40s, and back then it was it was like this guy in the neighborhood, right? He had like an amp and a speaker, and he had records. So people would be like, "Oh, come over to my party, play records," because bands are expensive, to pay everybody and expensive. So when there's this company in Mexico City in the 30s and 40s called Radson. So Radson used to make amps that were inexpensive, and so a regular person out in whatever neighborhood was able to buy these, and was able to be like, "Oh, okay, I'll go to your party and pay a record fee," instead of like hiring a whole band. So at the beginning, they would use an amp and they would use a trompeta. Y la trompeta is a speaker that you see like at schools, like if you go back, you were in elementary and you saw like speakers that said like, "Oh, you got to go to class," or some announcement of the day or whatnot, and they kind of look like a trumpet. So those were like trompetas that they used to use, and that was the sound system in the 40s. In the 60s, it started to get more complicated, and a lot of those people started like battling each other. It was like, who has the best sound, So the 60s, that's when really the started in Mexico City, and that's when a lot of sonideros started naming themselves. Like first person that put a name to itself was Sonido Fascinación, and because before it was like, oh, go call like Mr. Ramon or go call Mr. Pedro, like over and like the sound system so we can play music, So Sonido Fascinación is like the father of Sonidero, like the whole culture. He's kind of like Kurt. He was the first to go out of Mexico and go to different places like Guatemala, Colombia, Venezuela, and buy records. The reason that he would go out of Mexico to buy records was that he didn't want to play the same music that other Sonidos play. He wanted to have like a rare record, have something that it's like we're gonna go to Sonido Fascinacion's party, listen to this track. You're not gonna listen to that track anywhere else. You're not gonna listen to it on the radio. You're not gonna get it right at the store. You got to go to Sonido Fascinacion's party, and so that's how it started in Mexico City with the Sonidero. I kind of lost track, but I didn't answer more questions about that.
No, that's good though. So I'm gonna repeat some of what you said just so I make sure that everybody hears it. So the Sonidero got its start in the 30s and 40s, and you were saying that there was a company in Mexico that would make these amplifiers that would allow people to play records, and then somebody would get a hold of one of these things and then have some records and say, hey, like come through, like pull up and we're gonna listen to this music and hang out, right? And then over a period of time, coming into the 60s and stuff, the sound systems began to get more complex. Now, there's a gentleman who you mentioned whose name escaped me, and you can tell me, but you were saying that this guy, because of the way that he named himself, and also because of the fact that he would actually go from country to country picking up records that were regionally distributed. That's what I understood you to be meaning, was that like there would be records that you could only get in Guatemala or that you could only get in Ecuador or something like this. And that this particular Sonidero in the 60s actually went and got all those records. So to hear that music, you had to go to his party. Because you couldn't just go out in Mexico City and buy those records. So tell us that guy's name again.
So Sonido Fascinación, and it's a Perea. And his whole family did that. Even Sonido Latimba, rest in peace, back in April. And he was one of the sellers, Mexico, and even on eBay. If you ever bought records from El Rey de Guaguancó on eBay, that was Sonido Latimba.
And this is something that you continue, and also Adrian, you as well. I mean, you guys both like crate dive for records. Like you've got records that are hard to hear if you don't have that record. I mean, correct?
Exactly.
And like that's a part of the culture. I mean, Adrian, would you say like the parties that I was doing with you here at Hollow? I mean, I just know I get a lot of this just from Diego talking. Well, for everybody listening, we all have a mutual friend named Diego who kind of put me onto this lane, and like because of that, I mean, Turbo, I don't know if you remember, but I brought you out to my old club, Trans Picos, like years ago. You know what I mean? But anyways, Diego put me on to all this, and so this is how I got into this lane of thinking about this. But yeah, I just hear from Diego a lot about like crate digging and finding records and buying up people's record collections and so on. So, Adrian, what would you like? How would you describe the significance of that aspect of this culture, just having those cuts that you're just not going to hear on, you know, Spotify or SoundCloud or something at your party?
So yeah, I think that more than the exclusivity, it's part of the sound system culture. So like it's part of like the bragging rights aspect of it, and so it's always been part of like of the sound system culture. Like, for example, in Colombia, the sound system culture is more of in Barranquilla and in Cartagena and the Caribbean coast, and that's what we host. And within that, they're very there's a lot of like that into exclusivity, where they'll scratch out the label so that no one knows what they're playing it. They'll have nicknames for the song, so there'll be like that text with that name throughout the city, and everyone will know the name, but not the actual name of the song. And in Sonidero, I think that happens as well. So there is that part of that adventure thing with being able to find those exclusive sounds that are like traveling from one place to the other. So like the Sonidero, the characteristic sound is the slowed down version of the song. So it's a 45 single played at 33 RPM, like or a little like whatever speed DJ's choice of speed. But that was something that you find that through the traveling music collector who was going to Colombia and finding this music and taking it to wherever they're from. So it happened with the Sonidero where they were going to Colombia, buying all this music that wasn't really appreciated that much in Colombia because it was, and then they were taking it to Mexico and then having it at barrio parties and just like making them every one of them like artists in Colombia weren't being paid attention to. They were becoming stars in Mexico because of that.
Right. So both of you are kind of saying that like a crucial aspect of this culture has to do with traveling and finding music that you bring back to from where you are, and then sharing that with your audience at your party. Like that's somehow an essential piece of this culture.
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely having who had the rarest records. And sometimes when the records would arrive to Mexico, they would change the name of the tracks, or they would cover up the covers of the record. You know, they would put they would just scribble it out so like that people wouldn't know what record you had. And a lot of times they would change the names of it. A lot of tracks from yeah, when they arrived to Mexico, it became something else.
Okay, word. And so tell me, because this is another thing that you mentioned, Adrian, that I've understood to some extent. Well, first let me ask a super basic question. The Sonidero like inherently orbits around cumbia music. Is that correct?
No, I
Yes,
what?
Wait, what?
I just want to say this, like the Sonidero plays different types of Latino music. Their whole like they just want to play whatever gets the party cracking, you know. So a lot of Sonideros started going to South America and buy records. It was like cumbia, salsa, but the rhythm that most people like.
Oh, okay, I see. So the Sonidero does not inherently orbit around cumbia, but there tends to be a lot of cumbia because it's something that people respond to.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but on this, and why there's a name called cumbia sonidera is that so salsa, guaranco, and all rhythms were always played as sonidero. But again, like I said, cumbia was the rhythm that always got the party cracking, the one that people always liked. So what happened was that even though there were a lot of sonideros like out in a lot of these neighborhoods in Mexico City, a live band was always important. You know, the live band never gets replaced. People still want live band. So there's a lot of bands back in the days that you know were that were started to like feed their family, to pay bills, whatnot, and they're always looking for like type of music to play that's getting booked. So, like for example, Los Angeles Azules. Los Angeles Azules started playing rhythms, different type of music, and they were like playing cumbia, all the cumbia. So we're gonna, right? But they're playing cumbia the way they heard Sonideros play cumbia, which was down and with effect. Cumbia colombiana is really fast. The tempo is really fast. Really like tempo goes like around like 110 BPMs around there. Los Angeles Azules and bands that started playing cumbia sonidera slow it down. So they slow it down. They slow it down because when the cumbia record started back in Mexico, it was too fast for the Mexican public. So they started slowing down. They start pitching it down. So a lot of these bands, they start playing cumbia, but they start playing it the way the sonideros play, with effects, the voice, slowing down, like playing at slower tempos, and that's where cumbia sonidera starts.
Ah, okay. So the DJ practice of like pitching down the records to just bring the tempo down had an effect on the live band practice, who then started to play the music at a slower tempo.
Exactly.
And that's how, because cumbia, like when you hear like DJs play cumbia at the type of events that I associate the two of you with, the BPM is what, like 80, 90? Like what?
Yeah, like around 80s, it could be like 90s, like lower 90s.
Yeah, okay.
But it doesn't really go after that 95, and a lot, yeah, like in Colombia, goes like high 90s, 100s.
All right, word. And so, okay, all right. So we have a little background on cumbia, and we have a little background on the Sonidero. So where can Sonidero events happen? I mean, my conception is that they can happen basically anywhere, and that's part of why I'm interested in talking to you guys on the show, because it's this culture that kind of can live under any circumstances. But let me hear from you guys, like where do these events generally take place?
They usually happen in the blocks, in neighborhoods. It's kind of like I said, like the same thing with hip hop. When you hear about like cool parties, happen like on the street, them stealing like or whatnot to make this happen. The same thing with the Sonideros in Mexico. They happen on the street, and that's still a tradition that's still alive in Mexico. And you can go to Mexico City, you can go to a place like Puebla, San Luis Potosí, and you still see this. You see this on the street. I used to live out in Cholula, Puebla, back in 2010. And like right up to my house, there was this big vacant lot, and you would have somebody there posting up every weekend, or you could walk around Puebla, like around the town, and you would find the Sonidero. It was amazing. Puebla is amazing.
Right. So all right. So fundamentally, it's this culture that has like a guerrilla aspect to it. Like it can just pop up on the street or in a lot or whatever. Adrian, something that we texted about today is how this culture is kind of opening up new spaces for Latinx people to gather and organize, like in places that aren't Mexico or Colombia, like for example New York, where you and I live. Because I mean, doing that type of stuff in New York, like where you just spark something off on the street, is very sketchy. It's like very likely to get shut down. So how do you find that translating here in New York, Adrian? I think you're muted.
Yeah, so I think that the Sonidero place here in New York, they tend to have that underground DIY like vibe to it, because they're still organized by like a smallish group of people who have access to the sound system. And it just brings a community party, and they'll do them at anywhere from like backyards, wherever they can be hired, but also in banquet halls, and that's where they go on a lot of times too. And it's like also basements and like places that are like have access to it. Going to a little party is not easy. It's also like everyone kind of like tells you to stay away from it. It's dangerous, and there is that like aspect to it. And party organizers don't want to do Sonidero parties because of the crowd that gets associated with the outside. So that's something that happens.
So there's an element of danger to, like, if you go to a proper underground Sonidero party in New York, not at like a club like I run or something, but like at just like a warehouse or something, there can be an element of actual danger to these things.
Yeah, so it kind of like what happens with all of the popular music from like every country that has that aspect of being from lower class, when it's sort of like still not properly adopted into the culture. Like you have in Brazil, with like the favela music. In Argentina, you have the cumbia. It's always kind of like the cumbia is always that. It's always been part of the like lower class culture and the music thing, and that's one of the like magical things about cumbia, that it connects those people from all the way from South America all the way through like Canada or Alaska, and there's people playing cumbia, because now everyone plays cumbia.
Right. All right. So yeah, I mean, I guess I'm wondering, because I that's something that I'm learning about this, how it has its roots in a kind of street culture. This is a twofold question. Is something lost when you take it to a place like New York or LA, and you can't really just rock out on the street or just go into a lot and run an extension cord and just spark it off? You gotta, what I mean?
definitely from my experience, a lot is lost. It's going to Sonideros here in San Jose, for example. Like one of my the reason that I wanted to do my own party was that a lot of those parties are expensive. They tend to like charge you like $20, $30 to get in. There's bottle service. You gotta go dressed up. And Mexico City, it's not like that. Like when people talk about like safe spaces, like Sonideros have been safe spaces since like the beginning, you know? Because Sonideros will take you to your trance or killer, like craziest motherfucker. Like, and it's the safest. Yeah, if you're there to dance, to enjoy the music, you're cool. You know, nothing can happen to you at a sonidero. And you could be anybody. You could be there. You could express yourself however you want. And you're good. You know. And that's the sonidero to Mexico City or in Puebla and all over Mexico. Out here in the United States, I think lots of gets lost. You know, it's like you gotta pay $30 to get in. Then you got bottle service. Then you gotta get dressed up, and yeah, I don't like the experience. And also another thing that I would say about the sonideros in Mexico that it's like sensory overload. Like you get lights, you see like the screens. There's like a bunch of lights. Then you feel the bass. You know, you feel it all over your body, and it's just like bumping. You know. And it's just like looking at people dancing. It's just like it's kind of like being at Costco. I don't know if you like that when you go to Costco. It's just like, oh shit, this house. And that's how I feel like at a sonidero. It's just like wow, it's just like or like being at Disneyland almost. It's so exciting to be there because there's so many things going on. Light, video, your whole body is being rocked by the bass, the smells, people dancing. It's crazy.
Huh, that's amazing, man. Well, yeah, I mean that's like such a common thing when something comes to the States, it has to take on all of the trappings and try to become some type of super commerce. Like we're gonna take this and we're gonna clean it up and we're gonna do bottle service and we're gonna try to make money. Like it's like that's just kind of always the story. In New York, in the States, especially in the major markets in New York and LA and whatnot.
But there's something to note there too.
Wait.
And within the sonidero culture, it tends to be, let's say, for example, in New York, like the people who go to these parties, it's not necessarily people with a lot of money. Because sometimes it's a lot of times the guys from the kitchen and the guys who are doing the delivery. Those are the guys who are like saving whatever amount of money to work and then spending it at this party, and they get really fucked up, and that's why it tends to happen that there's fights and stuff like that. But it's kind of like it's their release from their work of like the whole week, where they've been just like grinding, and then it's just their time to entertain themselves, and that's why there's bottle service because they want to feel like they have that power to buy a bottle at a club.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. So like now, Adrian, what you're describing in that way, especially in terms of the like fights breaking out and whatnot, this kind of differs from what you're describing, Turbo, as in Mexico, where you say like people talk about safe spaces, and you're saying that the Sonideros have been safe like since day one. So is that element of danger something that's unique to the practice in the States, or do you find that to be? Is that also true on the West Coast, or like what's going on there?
Out here in the West Coast, hold on, let me down a little bit. Here in the West Coast, I don't see that element of violence. And Sonideros, of course, you do see that element of violence. Looking for it, you know, it's like everything. If you're looking for it, you're gonna find it. Other than that, no, I think I've never encountered any type of violence in any sonideros, like even here in the United States.
Huh. All right.
But yeah, it's damn. I think it happens in any setting that's club setting, you know. Where people
Exactly.
are,
I'm not saying that it's like particularly like dangerous because like of the sonidero, but it's just like the environment of having a lot of alcohol in a
yeah,
tropical dance like area where people are dancing and they're rubbing, they're hitting each other against the it tends to sort of like create that, but it's not inherently that it's a violent scene.
yeah.
Right.
Very inclusive for sure. There's like I mean you can see it like when you see those videos and it's a very inclusive scene. Like the dance scene is a huge part of the sonidero, and you can see that it's always on. You know,
Yeah, but I think that's something that happens in every scene, you know, like especially when you're mixing alcohol and drugs and whatnot. It happens in every scene that you're gonna have some type of violent like occurrence or whatnot. And yeah, I don't know. I understand. I understand what Adrian is saying.
Right. Well, I can say from my perspective as a club operator, for like I've been doing this for almost 10 years now, and I work with a lot of different communities, and the experiences that I've had working with, you know, roughly speaking, Latinx communities orbiting around bass music, there's some of the most easy to run events that I've ever been a part of. Like I've done a lot with like the Brazilian community here in New York, you know, doing like baile funk parties and whatnot. I've been doing Adrian's party all summer. Some of the stuff that like Rio Bamba is doing. It's just generally speaking, the Latinx communities and the Latinx events. It's like, you know, there's certain types of events, right, where you know people are going to be coming out, they're going to be doing drugs, they're going to be doing ketamine, they're going to be doing MDMA, people are going to get bad drugs, it's going to be fucked up, it's going to be a problem, like with techno and gabber and, you know, certain lanes of shit, you just know there's going to be problems. My experience in the lanes of like cumbia and baile funk and things like this is that people basically drink alcohol and smoke cigarettes, like maybe some weed, but they go outside and they're there to have fun. And I've had like almost no problems at those events, you know? So my experience has been super positive. And certainly with Adrian's parties over the summer, it's like the most mellow people like in the world, but it's like fucking great. But that actually kind of brings me to my next thing that I want to get kind of deeper into is I want to explore this thing that Adrian's saying about the culture opening up new spaces for Latinx communities to gather and create in places outside of, you know, South and Central America. So, Adrian, how do you see that happening? Why do you think it's important? Like, what's coming out of that that's interesting?
Yeah, so you mentioned like there's other like Latinx teams and act like also the that it's like we're doing something that is kind of like we're like recreating like the students here, and it's like a newer generation of Latin people who are like, let's say live in Brooklyn at like a certain idea of who the person is. It's like so it's not like the same Latin person from Queens. So it's a little bit different. Like, it's more like artistic oriented crowd, and there's like a art scene and like popping up to that, and it's sort of like the innovation of like that scene that we know about, but we weren't like invited or we weren't part of it growing up, and then like, I'm creating that like a space where my local friends can join with, and sort of like feel welcome. So that spirit of creating the event just by whatever means, that I want to create the parties that I do, being able to tell my friends that there's a place where they can listen to cumbia and dance, salsa, and have all these things available in the neighborhood, in your area, in New York. So because it was missing for a while, and because there's been like those movements of these like Latinx like music scenes, and it just kind of in place, and it was something that was existing, and that's why I mean the Sonidero is a big thing in that, and using that space for people to block that.
Right. So this is a related question, and I think it will tie back into what you're talking about. But I mean, this is also like from my perspective, and maybe you're not going to agree with me, but I'm curious because like you know how it is on like, let's say like the kind of like indie underground electronic music scene, right? Like certain kinds of music will have like moments where they become very visible, right? Like in the last 5 years, it's kind of less so now, but like in the last 5 years, like there was a moment where dance hall became like, you just started to hear dance hall everywhere, right? Like I would say in like 2010, 2011, if I went out to a bar in Brooklyn, I wouldn't hear dance hall at all. Do you know what I mean? Maybe they would be playing techno or house or disco or things like this, right? And then there came to be like increasingly from like 2007 till the present, there came to be more interest in musics coming from the global south, electronic music coming from the global south, right? And different musical forms would kind of gain momentum differently over time. Do you know what I mean? So like dance hall had a big moment. Gom music had a big moment. Grime, you know, which is, you know, obviously from the UK, but still it's like a lot of POC artists and whatnot, had like a big moment. Now, how do you feel like cumbia sets in that? Like, do you feel like cumbia is still like, it's obviously huge in the Latin community, but it hasn't like broken over into the like kind of more mainstream awareness yet? Or do you think that's happening? Or like where do you feel like it stands? And I don't know, do you care? Like, what are you thinking about it?
Personally, like in Mexico, for example, there's something that I always think about. For example, like I was a big hip hop head, right? Like, I was really big into hip hop. I used to produce hip hop before I used to do cumbia, and I always thought like the record labels and hip hop being mainstream ruined hip hop. You know, it stopped being a part of the streets. It stopped being, yeah, I mean, now most hip hop artists talk about money, and it has nothing to do with the streets. While cumbia, I still believe that it still represents the hood. It still represents the neighborhood in Mexico. In Colombia, cumbia is different. From my experience, when I went to Colombia, and I've been there a couple of times to go play, cumbia is something that's really festive. That only gets created like in December, right? Like during like Christmas, New Year's, and that's when cumbia gets played. So it's almost like mariachi music. Mexico mariachi music only play when it's like a festivity, you know. But in Mexico, cumbia turned into something else. And in Mexico, like cumbia sonidera is part of the street, part of the hood. And unfortunately, you know, it's really classes in Mexico, like middle class, upper middle class, and the rich. They don't accept as being like something like that we can consume, that we can buy or whatnot. So it never became popular. It never became mainstream. It's kind of like hip hop, right? Hip hop right now. Who consumes hip hop? Suburbia, rich people. You know, like people with money. You know, like the hood is not buying records. It's not buying CDs. It's suburbia. You know, with money. You know?
Right.
And Mexico doesn't have it. So I believe that's why cumbia has made and become what it is now. Like cumbia in Mexico has been there for like 40 years, and it keeps becoming something else. And it's always música de barrio, which is hood music, and
Right. So what I'm hearing you say is that you feel that like the thing that happened for hip hop in the States, where it began as this very street level community thing and it kind of blew up and became this mainstream thing, and you feel that it kind of killed the medium, and like the fact that that hasn't happened in cumbia, and you're saying you attribute that to a classist situation in Mexico. You actually think that well, I mean, you think that does something positive for the music and that it retains a sense of like realness and authenticity that allows the music to continue to change and grow and kind of be what it is to the people who originally created it and represent those communities and those settings.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the cumbia bands, when they started, they were created to survive. They were created to feed their family. Los Angeles Azules is one of the few bands that I could think of that actually became really successful. And when they first started, and they will say it was like to feed our family. It wasn't like I want to be famous or whatnot, or like I want to be big. And it took them a really long time to be mainstream, you know. And that's one of the few examples that I can think of. But for the most part, a lot of people that get into cumbia is because of tradition, because of culture, and at the end of the day, it's to make a living. But it's not to be like, it's not like with hip hop, you know, or rap, you know. Like I feel like a lot of rappers, it's like I want to be make money, you know, I want to be a billionaire, you know. And that's not the same experience with a lot of these cumbia bands.
Right. So Adrian, when I was talking that shit about like different things like blowing up on the scene in Brooklyn or whatever, or just like in the indie electronic music world or whatever in general, I saw you kind of like smirked a little bit. So which is fine, which is totally legit, because I want to be clear. Like, I mean, I run a venue, but I don't read blogs. I really, when it comes to booking my venue, I really just work directly with people. Like, I knew Diego knew y'all, I got put onto y'all, then we started working together. Then, through you, I met Peralta, he at one point was interested in doing something. I just go out like that. I just go out on like a social map. You know what I mean? So I really don't care. And actually, I seek things out that aren't being paid attention to by like media and whatnot, because I kind of share your sentiment, Turbo, that when things start to get that shine on them, it does something negative to them, because like the communities that then surround them, then everybody wants to get a piece of that shine, and it starts to kind of dissolve the community. Nevertheless, I do think it's an interesting thing to sort of index, like what people are paying attention to. But like, yeah, I mean, how do you experience that in New York, right? Like, because New York is like such a hotbed of like people on the come up in the electronic music world or in the music world and whatever. Like, what's your take on that? Like, as far as like cumbia and Latinx music is concerned? Oh, I think Adrian's frozen. Is everybody frozen? No.
Am I? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, cool. So yes, I was about to say that. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it's at the end of the day, like, the idea behind a lot of these parties where we play vintage music, it goes with that idea of is this music going to be relevant 20 years from now? And I feel that that's sort of like the spirit of, let's say, the Cumbia Obscura town, is that they try to go like very much with like something that, because there's a lot of people pursuing Cumbia, but and it's a while because it becomes popular, like an easy thing to select. But at the end of the day, it's good, and I feel that if like, you have to, if the product is good, it's going to be a product that's going to have last a long time. And I feel that if it's weak, it's not going to be played by Sonidero in Mexico. It won't like it. Like, the product is not good. It's not good.
Okay, word. I didn't catch the very end of what you said. Could you try saying that again, like about Mexico? I heard you say something about.
Yeah, so I feel that if the cumbia song is getting made, or whatever is getting, it's not being danced somewhere, that means that it's not going to be a product that's going to be last for a long time. They won't remember that song in 20 years.
Right. So I mean,
so that's where the dancing. I feel that that's like the importance of the dancing in the culture of the Sonidero and in the Latin culture is dance they're gonna dance that song for 20 years, then that's something that there's a real magic in there. Not
Right. So like in some way it's like about like longevity and like, yeah. I mean, well, I think one thing that's like really powerful about the communities that you guys represent and belong to is that, like in New York City, for example, there's so many Latinx people that something doesn't even really need to get on in like a mainstream setting to have success, because it could just exist in your own community, and there's plenty of people out there who will go to this, which is like I actually think, I mean, you know, I see it from I'm not a part of that community, do you know what I mean? So I see it in a different way, but I think that that's like a profound strength, because it allows you to exist outside the logic of this cultural machine that is you know, pretty toxic. You know what I mean? The music machine is like it's just like a toxic thing. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, wait, Turbo, I saw that you called the line. Can you say something?
What's up?
you're on mute.
Oh, okay, so let me see if I can get you in here. Hold on one second. Try speaking.
What's up?
Are you on? Do you have your phone on speaker?
I'm on my phone.
Wait, you're on your phone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But you got your headphones on, right?
Yeah, I got it on.
Okay. Yeah, that is actually better. I can hear you better. So give me one more sentence there.
What's up? Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's cool. I can hear you actually way better.
Yeah, okay, cool.
All right, bet. All right, cool. Well, so next line of discussion. So both of you run labels, and so one of the things that I think kind of brings up is that the mediums you guys are dealing with are very much like living mediums, right? Like they're like actively growing and changing and becoming new things and so on, right?
For sure.
I mean, like Turbo, Cumbia Obscura. I mean, you guys have like a pretty futuristic take on what cumbia is, right? I mean, am I right? Like your guys' angle on cumbia music is like, you know, for lack of a better word, like modern or like futuristic or something.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's like modern or whatnot. Like we're trying to be modern or we're trying to be futuristic. I think the way it started was like when I started producing cumbia, like you know, so I call myself Turbo Sonidero, right? So it was like when I wanted people to see my name, I wanted people to be like, oh, this guy's gonna play Sonidero music, you know. Especially back in the days, like with Tormenta Tropical out here in the Bay. Where people were doing like global bass and tropical bass and all that. So, but I really wanted to represent. I felt like listening to people from Tormenta Tropical, which I'm not trying to diss or anything like that. But I felt like personally where I was coming from, I was trying to express myself from what I knew, you know, from living out there in Puebla, my mom being from Nesa, Mexico, you know. And so it's like I did it for a long time. I did it for like over 10 years, you know, where I was like producing this type of music that a lot of people didn't really understand, you know, because everybody wanted like more like tropical bassy type music, you know. So then from the people that I started working with, I started noticing that it's like we're all kind of like working together, where it's like we all have like the sound. That's really based on Sonidero music. So it's really based on a Mexican Sonidero cumbia, and but we're doing stuff with synthesizers, you know. But we never personally, and from a lot of people that I talk to that are part of the crew, we don't look at it as like as being like, oh, we're trying to be futuristic, or we're trying to be like something else, you know. We're trying to be like trying to experiment, or we're trying to be like trying to take it to another level. No, we're trying to be a part of the conversation of cumbia sonidera, because cumbia sonidera is really being innovative. If you listen to a lot of bands that were doing cumbia sonidera from the 70s, 80s, 90s, it's always part of being like la vanguardia, you know, the avant-garde, you know. In Mexico, there's a saying, you know, ser un sonidero es ser parte de la vanguardia, being a part of the avant-garde, you know, like doing like something another level from like the next generation, but also like doing like what's going on like in present society, whatever, you know. So a lot of stuff that we do for Cumbia Oscura has to do with like trap. It has to do with like electronic music, you know. That's like what's going on now, and we're trying to express that with Cumbia Sonidera, you know.
Right. So that's something that I didn't know, is that there was like an explicit attachment to something that could be considered avant-garde that's like necessarily a part of doing like sonidero culture or doing cumbia. So
yeah, because if you're gonna get the freshest records, you gotta play like the freshest tracks, you know, and that's part of being a sonidero. And when it comes to hip hop, that's what I always liked about hip hop. It was like you're not gonna copy somebody else's style. You're gonna try to take it to the next level, and I found that in sonidero, you know, that it's like the same thing with producers. Like you're not gonna copy somebody else's style. You're gonna try to do your own thing, and you're gonna try to take it to the next level.
Right, got you. So Adrian, with Kazumbo, I know that you don't deal exclusively with cumbia. So what other forms are you working with?
So with Kazumbo, as far as the merch, it's very cumbia oriented. There's like a lot of the cumbia items in the store, because I feel there was a lack of that. There was a lack of cumbia merch that I can rock to the party, and I what I tried to fill. But then with the music, for me, being part of the music scene for a long time, and seeing all these talented friends do amazing stuff, I was like, I want to be a part of like that, like exposing that first, of being the first one to show people like work that like the artists are in Brooklyn right now.
Right. Oh, okay. All right. So you're saying that like you're just kind of focusing on like who you're rolling with right now that are doing interesting things that you're around.
Just because they're like the first one in line of like the people that I think this is doing amazing things. Like a nice group of people that are doing like really cool music projects, and I want to be sort of like be able to support that however I can, design, helping like whatever I can, with a designer, record label.
Right. And so does for both, because both of you organize events, both of you run labels, both of you are record collectors and DJs and selectors, and both of you are part of Sonidero culture in some way. Is that aspect of having a label that you operate, does that like increase your flow in what you're doing, or like help you do what you do, or like raise the profile of what you're doing, or like, you know what I mean? Because that's like a model that you see a lot, like where somebody's like a producer, a DJ, they got their own label, they have a party. Do you know what I mean? Like, how's that working out like in your lives?
I feel that it keeps you connected to the music scene, right? Like it just like it keeps you with the finger and doing the party, brings the conversation of like local music, and so it keeps you like in the know of what's going on.
Right. And so what is what's coming up for each of your labels? Like Turbo, what's coming up for Cumbia Obscura?
Yeah, I just wanted to like backtrack a little bit.
All right.
As far as like personally, like with Cumbia Obscura was really like to put on a lot of producers that I'm really a fan of, like that I really like, and that Mexico is really classes. You know, a lot of these producers are not going to get a shot like as far as like getting the records produced or as far as like getting shows or whatnot. So Cumbia Obscura is a space for a lot of these producers that I'm a fan of, you know, and yeah, it's like it's dope because I'm a fan of a lot of these producers that I'm putting on, you know, and this is a conversation that I have with Talacha a lot, you know, Diego, and Diego's a homie, and we've been working on Cumbia Obscura, and it's like, we see that, like, going to Mexico, like, we do see the classes, and we do see, like, a lot of these producers that are really good, but they don't have a shot. They don't have a space to put their music other than SoundCloud, you know? So for me, it's really important to do this. And as a crew, it helps everybody out. It helps me out. It helps them out. And yeah, so what we're planning for this year is just release more records, put out more music, and keep on going on that conversation that we're having with Sonideros and with other Sonidero producers and whatnot.
Right, and you guys like tour in Mexico and whatnot.
Yeah, we do that. Like we were just there like back in November. Because of COVID, we couldn't play a lot of events, but yeah, we go out there and we try to connect with people. You know, we try to connect with new producers, new people doing stuff with cumbia, and also with like, you know, Sonido Fascinación, Sonido La Timba, you know, Sonido Royal, with different sound systems from all over Mexico City, you know, all over Mexico actually.
Word. And Adrian, what's next for the label for you?
So with records, we only started releasing music this past year, and that one was the project that we did with Jay Fabiane, called Chico Raro, and so we produced that along with Felipe from Invita. He was the music producer for that. So we released an EP for that. We're trying to work on more songs to come up with a full album. And I'm just connecting with other producers in the team in New York. Not being able to have like shows or it slow down the need to release music. So that's like a little bit. I've just been working with merch. And there's going to be a few like different collections this year. And then as far as music, I'm able to create a record featuring music from the local artists.
Cool. So y'all got things happening. Well, gentlemen, we've been on for over an hour. This has been fascinating, man. It's like amazing to learn about all this. I don't want to keep y'all all night, but Sonideros, Cumbia, fascinating topics. Do you guys have any closing thoughts before we close out here?
Yeah. I mean, I want to say that for me, just like seeing the appreciation for cumbia from like in the Mexican community, it pushes the need for me to appreciate music as well and connect with those roots. And the Sonidero artists have kept that music relevant for so many years. And if it wasn't Sonideros, I don't know what the state of it would have been in a global scene. I think if it wasn't because of them, it wasn't because of the Mexican pop artist scene influenced by like that scene, bringing bringing it to a bigger scene and influencing the Colombian artists who look into their groups to create their new music, as like some artists are doing, and looking into cumbia to create the music of.
Right. Something that's been really profound for me in having this conversation is hearing about the history of people traveling to get music from other places and bring them back to where they're from and share that music in that way. And that lineage of people doing that and keeping that tradition alive is truly very deep, man. And like, I appreciate both of you. And man, this COVID thing is wearing me out, man. I can't wait to get back to throwing events and have both of y'all at the spot, man. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, man.
No, thank you. Thank you to you for setting this up. Shout out to Talacha for like getting the conversation started, and shout out to Adrian. And I had fun, you know. And I hope people like explore Cumbia Sonidera. There's a lot of Latinx producers and diggers that are out there, you know. But it's like, I think it's really like. Just there's a lot to explore.
Yeah,
you just gotta dig, you know. And I hope this gets bigger. And thank you.
Yeah, man, 100%. Thank you guys. So I'm gonna do my little outro. Y'all can go back to the icons, but we're gonna be in touch soon,
sure.
man. I appreciate you, Adrian, Turbo. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Oh,
Sam.
and I'm gonna go out with one of your tracks, Turbo. I'm gonna go out with one of your tracks.
Yeah, dope.
So all right.
Dope.
All right, guys. Peace. All right.
Sure.
So place of assembly, Turbo Sonidero, Adrian is hungry, Sonidero culture, cumbia, Latinx music producers, covered a lot of ground. I got a lot of crate digging to do myself. Check out this music. Y'all should do the same. This is the Place of Assembly podcast produced by Hollow in collaboration with Experimental Sound Studio, Chicago, and 8 Ball Radio. We're going to go out with Vuela Vuela by Turbo Sonidero. And I'll see y'all next week. We're going to be here with Courtney Finn from Cleveland Mocha, a little Art World jam. Get back on that tip. All right. Stay warm. Stay safe.
Sonidero, desde San José, California, para el mundo. Estamos haciendo